Today is the final day of shooting and I'm on my way down to take down my camera. The camera is now removed and I'm pretty impressed that it lasted for 10 full days with no problems. I guess I was quite lucky, the lens didn't fog up or anything. But yeah, I'm gonna go back home now and I think I'm gonna do a bit of a conclusion on this project. So it's a few days later and I've been editing for a little while. And it's pretty easy to edit most of the stuff. Usually I just add a grade in After Effects and then I just export it out and just play it back as it is. No deflickering, nothing. But there are a few clips that are really difficult to make them how I want them to be. So it's a bit more work to that. So I'm just going to show you a tiny bit of how that it's working out. So yeah, well, I just got my print today of a photo which I took back last year, and I think it's pretty cool. So it's an aluminum print, so it's pretty cool. It's the first time I've properly done an aluminum print, and I think it looks much better than any other kind of prints I've tried. So yeah, I think that's a really cool picture. Anyway, all right, there we go. So this is my project in Premiere. And most of the clips, like this one, is really just simple clips that I've put together. But then there are some which are extremely difficult, and I had to do a lot of work in After Effects and kind of fake the clip a bit. And that is mostly my final clip here, which is this one. So that is kind of my the Sony clip, which I am saving for the last part of the time-lapse here. Let me just try to find the original project that I was working in so I can show you a little bit what I did. Okay, so I think I found the project. So the idea was to show the whole 10 days in one clip. And I thought, if I were to show the night and day and night and day for 10 days, that would be quite hectic. So I chose to only use the night shots. So I picked every one of the night shots out and then I kind of put those together to a time-lapse. But then you will have a gap when there should be a day, right? When the platform is moving upward and then it's the next night and it's kind of like jumping. So what I basically had to do was to kind of fake that gap to make a smooth transition between each night. So this is the raw files that came out of Lightroom. You can see that it's quite unstabilized because every time I change the battery, I changed the tripod a little bit, the camera angle was a little bit different. So you can see here how it kind of, here it goes smoothly and then it's another night and you can see this big gap between, and even more so you can see here later that it's also very unstable. So especially here you can see the camera moving a lot. So what I found was that no stabilizer could kind of do this. I tried warp stabilizer in After Effects, which usually works pretty well, but this time it was not a chance that it would be able to do it. The image was all like wobbly. So what I found out was that I could use Photoshop to stabilize it because it's quite a few frames. It's only like 90 frames. So what I did was to go into Photoshop and try to align them there, which is not something I've done on a time-lapse before, but for this particular sequence, it worked really well. So basically what I did was to go into File, Scripts, and load files into Stack. And then I chose those images. And I checked attempt to automatically align source images. and then you just click OK. So I wanted to avoid this taking too much time and too much processing power, so I downsized images to 3000 by 2000, which made the whole process go fairly quickly on my machine. So then what I ended up with after stabilizing and exporting from Photoshop was this sequence. So as you can see by the white borders, it's stabilized, and you can see that it did a very, very good job in doing so. You can see there's a huge difference in the camera angle, but the image is still totally stabilized. So great job by Photoshop there. So now that was my my base, which I could start working on. I don't even know where to start because this project is very massive, and I kind of lost a little bit of control of it after a while. So in this composition I created gaps. So where there is a gap in the video, there is also a gap in the photo. So now what I had to do was to create what is in the middle here, you know, like in between. And that was the most challenging part. So what I did was basically just to create masks of the three platforms as they were moving up. So as you can see here, there are tons of layers, there are 50 of them actually, and this is in the beginning of the project. So here you can see a natural move, and then here it comes where you see there are lots of layers. These are different masks of each part of the structure here. So if I turn that off, you can see kind of how it is. So basically I was taking this motion and repeating it over again here with masks, and then just moving the whole thing up. I know this is very complicated and you're not gonna learn exactly how to do it, but I just want to give you a brief overview of how I kind of did it. So I did that to every single one of the gaps and was able to close it. And now as you can see, it's looking pretty good, but there are still quite a bit of problems. So then what I did to kind of avoid all this flickering was to do a time blend effect again, which I've showed you before how I did. You need After Effects 2014 or older, and you just add the time blend effects and you set that to somewhere like 60-70, and you'll get a much smoother result. So the result after using time blend was this, where everything looks very smooth, but the problem now is that all the platforms are being just like dragged up and they are blurry. So I spent a whole while just to mask in a sharp platform, which at the same time I had to deflicker, which I did by the time blend effects, but I stabilized the platform so that the platform was not moving, and then I put the time blend on that, and then I kind of destabilized it and this is very complicated. I don't know if you understand me, but that's kind of how I did it. It would take hours and hours to show you how I did it, and it would be very boring. And this is not something that's going to apply to a lot of projects, so I don't think it's very useful for most people. So anyway, I ended up with tons of layers and a lot of masking, and there was a lot of small details that I had to pay attention to, like the staircase here and the bridge over here. So yeah, very complex stuff. So you can see all the compositions over here. Each one of them contains lots of layers, so I can just go and dive deeper and deeper and deeper into the project. So very messy. If I were to do it again, I would probably try to be a bit more organized, but I was trying and failing so much that I just ended up doing something, and then yeah, it became messy. But I'm sure all of you that has been doing stuff in After Effects and something that's a bit out of your comfort zone, the projects usually are quite messy. But I think knowing After Effects is really nice. I spent hours and hours when I was younger just playing around with After Effects and other software as well, like 3D stuff, and just because I thought it was interesting. And finally I'm getting the use of that knowledge. That's nice. So as you can see, I also did some graphics on here, which is not something I usually do a lot, but in this project I thought it would be interesting to do a little bit of animated graphics, because the client wanted some text. I always think it's boring when it's just like overlay texts. So if I go and edit this, you can see kind of how it is. So I'm no expert on animation and no expert on graphic design and text and all that, but so basically what I did was just to use circles, which are the dots here, and then for the lines I used a beam effect, which you can animate. So basically if you just turn on the time like this, you can animate it. So that's a really nice way to animate lines if you want to use that. So I added like a rotating numbers kind of thing, like a spinning wheel, just to show how much taller the towers were getting every day. So basically by just adding a track mat, I did that. So very simple, and well, simple if you know it, if you know me. And then I just keyframe the position of the numbers to just slowly go upwards like this. You add the track mat. So I added a feather to the track mat, so it was like a gradual fade out of the numbers. I think that came out pretty well. So yeah, you just have to start somewhere and learn the most basic of the basic stuff in After Effects, and you just learn how to just add two position keyframes and animate an object from one end to the other. And that's really just where you have to start, and then you can start doing more and more advanced stuff. I am absolutely no expert whatsoever on After Effects. Most of the stuff in After Effects I have no idea how to do, but usually by trying and failing you find a solution to it somehow. But it's hard work, and it's definitely a program which is not for everyone. Especially like expressions and stuff is something I'm really not comfortable using. I used it actually once in this project, and that was to make a bit of a flicker on a static image, which was a wiggle effect on a brightness, which basically I wanted the light to change a little bit up and down to make it look more natural on the bottom part of the concrete here. This is just like one solid picture, so I wanted to add a bit of flickering to it to make it blend a bit more with the background, which was also a bit flickery. So today I actually received the sound mix from the sound designer. He added a bit of sound effects and noises from the construction sounds to the track, so that sounds pretty good. So I think that's about it for this project. I hope you think it was interesting to come along and see how I work. This was a very much a last minute project where I had to do a lot of like DIY solutions, and so not necessarily how I would have done it if I had more time. Those kind of situations, it forces you to be creative, so that's good. So thank you for watching. I hope you felt it was interesting to watch, and I see you around.